Hi guys, my name is Bri Valley. Today we're going to be talking about the Bullock gold mining case, which is found at the end of Chapter 7. The chapter focuses on net present value and other investment rules. Okay, so a little background on the case. So Seth Bullock, he owns Bullock Gold Mining. He decides to evaluate a new gold mine, which is in South Dakota, and so he sends his geologist out there. His geologist goes inside, he evaluates the inside of the mine, and he finds that it's going to have about an 8-year lifespan, and he takes the estimates of the gold to their financial officer. Their financial officer comes up with future cash flow. She comes up with their cost to acquire this mine, and she also comes up with their required rate of return, which will be used later on to make calculations. All right, getting into logistics of what their financial officer calculated and also the first set of questions. So the financial officer took the facts about the gold mine and, came up with these cash flows. So she estimated that it would cost about $850 million to acquire this gold mine. She also estimated cash flows for year 1 through 9. So cash flow, for example, cash flow in year 1, $165 million. Cash flow in year 9 happens to be negative $120 million, and they range. So you can see them all there, $165 million, $190 million, $225 million. So they vary. She also says that their required rate of return for this project is going to be 12%. So we need that to calculate NPV and discount our cash flows later on. So first thing we're asked to calculate is payback period. So payback period in a sense like this is real easy to calculate. All you do is started with the negative $185 million that it's going to cost them to acquire it. So immediately they're in the hole, as any investment would be. So they're in the hole, $850 million. Year 1, they produce $165 million in positive cash flows. So what you do is you add that to your negative $850 million, and you get $685 million. You keep adding, so you're going to add your $190 million to that $685. You keep adding, and then you see at year 4 that you are in the hole $25 million. You still are at negative $25 million, but you see that your next cash flow is $235 million. So this next cash flow is going to take you to a positive place. You're going to be up, and you're going to be paid back. So we see that we take that $25 million that we still have left over in the negative, and we divide by our next cash flow, which is $235 million. And when you take that, you get 0.12. So then you add it to the 4 full years that you had before, and you get 4.12 as your payback period. So then we're asked to calculate internal rate of return. So internal rate of return is your annual growth rate that you expect your investment to produce. It's also the rate that makes net present value 0. So you calculate that using your initial outlay and your future cash flows. And I got 15.33% as their internal rate of return. Then you're asked to calculate modified internal rate of return. So the difference between modified internal rate of return and internal rate of return is, with modified, you actually know your reinvestment rate. Whereas internal rate of return, you are assuming that your reinvestment rate is that IRR that you calculate. So sometimes it can overestimate profitability because you're guessing what your reinvestment rate is. Where modified internal rate of return is giving you your exact, or what again, it's a little bit of a guess, but what they expect truly the reinvestment rate to be for this project. So for this, to calculate MIRR, you need your future cash flows, you need your reinvestment rate, and you need your required rate of return. So I got 13.27%. And then finally, we're asked to calculate net present value. So net present value is just what's the present value of your future cash flows discounted at a certain rate. So we're told that our discount rate is 12. We're given our future cash flows, and we find out that our net present value is $95,268,940.02. Okay, so now getting into question 2, which says, based on your analysis, should the company open the mine? So essentially it's asking us, what do all those numbers mean that we just calculated? And do they tell us that this is going to be profitable for us? So, IRR. IRR is profitable when it is greater than WACC. It's greater than our weighted average cost of capital. So, weighted average cost of capital is how much does it cost us to get funding. So if we want to buy this investment for $850 million, we're not just getting that $850 million for free. Like, we're going to have to pay interest on it. So how much does it cost us to get that? And though we're not given WACC in this case, we can assume that our required rate of return is greater than our WACC because obviously we want to make money. So again, IRR is profitable when it's greater than WACC or greater than our required rate of return. And in this case, our required rate of return is 12 and our IRR is 15.33%. So from an IRR standpoint, it's profitable. So MIRR, again, same thing. It's going to be profitable when it's greater than our WACC or it's greater than our required rate of return. So in this standpoint, our MIRR, which is probably a little more accurate, it went down from our IRR. So it went down to 13.27%, but it's still above our required rate of return of 12. So from an MIR standpoint, it's profitable. Lastly, NPV analysis. So NPV is profitable whenever it's positive. It could be $1 and it's still positive. So ours was $95,268,940. So I think it's safe to say that it's profitable from a net present value point of view. Now I will say, like, these all do have setbacks for estimating if they're profitable or not, because with NPV, for example, you're guessing, with all of them, you're guessing what your cash flows are going to be. You don't know what your cash flows are going to be, you're guessing them. So if there's a little tweak in them, maybe it's not as profitable as you thought it was going to be. And then also with IRR, as I said, it's kind of risky because you are assuming that you're going to reinvest at that IRR rate when really you don't know that. And then one other thing that I just wanted to touch on is payback period. You don't really have payback period says it's going to be profitable, but like if you were looking, let's say we were comparing it to another investment, you obviously want your payback period to be shorter. So in this instance, it's 4.12 years. We have 9 years of cash flow. We're getting our money in half the amount of the lifespan, so that's not a bad payback period, but we can't really say it's profitable. We could compare it to another project and look at its payback period, but we can't really say if it's profitable from that standpoint. So overall, IRR said it was profitable, MIRR said it was profitable, and NPV said it was profitable. So I say yes, this project is profitable. Yes, they should go ahead and purchase the mine.